everyone wants something meaningful to do. I believe that goes for children, goes for young adults, goes for adults, goes for seniors. We want to find something that gives meaning to our lives. And that's what we want to talk about in this session. Socrates and some of the old Greek philosophers used to say, know thyself. That's the beginning of wisdom, and today we want to study ourselves. We often study science or mathematics or history, but today the subject of study is ourselves. What are our interests? What are our abilities? What are our spiritual gifts? And how can they be used meaningfully in the church or in the world? I'd like to have you meet Jessica Reeser-Rempel. She and a friend, Chris Burgess, have started a new organization called Pastors in Exile. Jessica, can you tell us, what is that all about?
We started Pastors in Exile about 2 years ago because we noticed that many young adults who grew up in the Mennonite church have since left that. They see themselves as being faithful people, as spiritual, maybe even religious people, but the churches they grew up in, they didn't find that they fit there. And so we were connecting with friends and peers who felt like they wanted something, they wanted more meaning in life, and that wasn't happening inside the walls of the church.
Things are really changing, aren't they? The old organizational structures aren't working like they used to. Traditional beliefs are brought into question. And yet here are valuable people who haven't lost their faith, like you say. And how can we draw them into the church?
We're asking a bit of a different question. We're asking, how can the church be the church inside and outside of church walls? So this doesn't look like being in our churches and waiting for the young adults to come back, but looking at a bigger vision that God might have for all of us in the church in this new and transitional time. One of the biggest surprises that I have found is that this challenge, or this feeling of not really fitting with the church, goes so much farther than just young adults themselves. I've met people of all ages who are asking these difficult questions about what does my life mean and do I fit in the church and things like that. And along with that, I discovered that the young adults I'm talking to, they have no need to just be off alone as a group of young adults. They're really deeply longing for intergenerational relationships, and as those are developing, they can be very mutually beneficial. And the challenges that younger adults are facing in terms of how to find a meaningful life are actually in some ways similar to the challenges that people nearing retirement age are experiencing. What does my life mean? What should I do with it now? How do I use my gifts meaningfully?
How do you go about finding what young adults have to offer?
I do agree. I think definitely everyone has something unique to offer in the world and to the church specifically. And one of the things that I have to offer to the world is the ability to listen. And so a lot of the work that I'm doing right now is sitting with young adults and just listening to them, listening to their experiences, listening to where their gifts lie. And then sometimes as I listen, I can begin to identify and wonder, maybe this is a gift you could offer in this context. And I know the pastor over at First Mennonite Church, maybe there's a gift you could offer there. And we start to make connections that way. But primarily, I take a lot of time to listen to these adults.
Wow, that's a way to love people, to get to know as much about them as you can, and to know how to serve them and help them to make a meaningful contribution in life. What happens to people when they feel accepted or when their gift has been discerned?
I think it's a transition from a sense of scarcity that maybe I'm not enough, or maybe I just have enough for me, to an understanding that whatever gifts I have are valuable and can be offered to others. So I see a real joy and just a deeper meaning that develops in people who are finding ways to offer those gifts. It's much easier for them to realize that there is life beyond the walls of their house, life beyond themselves when they're engaged in offering their gifts to others. And I think it's easier to see the presence of God as well. As soon as we begin to look beyond ourselves, that's when we begin to notice that God's at work in the world.
Jessica, what do you see that happens to people when their gifts are identified and suddenly they see some meaning in life that they can respond to?
when people identify their gifts, I see a real moving beyond a sense of scarcity and that all I have is for myself and I need everything I've got, to a sense of being able to contribute to the world around them. And there's a real joy that comes out of that, of feeling like I am unique, I am a valued part of this community, whether that's their church community or the wider community. And I also notice that when people are beginning to connect outside of themselves, when they are using their gifts in the world around them, it's actually easier to see God at work in the world as well. There's just this sense of moving outwards.
We're more than consumers. We're here to serve. We're here to give.
That's right.
And when we give and fulfill our purposes, that really gives meaningful to life. I see you as a person who sees people with their lives are full. A little bit like this fountain behind us. There's kind of an overflow. And when people are affirmed and encouraged and helped, there's something of an overflow in their life that goes out into society, into the world, and possibly into the church.
I think that's right. There are so many gifts to go around. God is good to us, and when we begin to tap into that and recognize it, then the living water that God gives us is just overflowing into the world.
We're in a park today, and I picked a leaf off of a tree. I understand that every leaf in a tree is different. There are no two leaves the same. I believe that's the same way it is with people. There are no two people the same. Each person is unique. Each person has a unique set of interests, abilities, and also spiritual gifts.